Look, we know this sounds like a ludicrous question, but still you are here, so let's figure this out. Have you ever wondered if Phineas and Ferb's wild inventions, like a backyard roller coaster, a time machine, or even a beach in the middle of the suburbs, could actually exist? On the surface, it all looks like cartoon magic. But what if I told you there's real science hiding behind their craziest summer projects? Today, we're pulling apart their blueprints and asking the big question, could any of this actually work in the real world? From physics and power sources to materials and money, we're putting their inventions to the ultimate feasibility test. And trust me, you'll be surprised by how close some of their ideas are to reality. The impossible dream. What are we going to do today? It's the question that kicks off nearly every episode. And somehow the answer is always bigger, crazier, and more ambitious than before. One day, it's a backyard roller coaster that loops through the entire neighborhood. The next, it's a full-scale beach, complete with crashing waves and sand, built right in the middle of suburbia. On the surface, it feels like pure cartoon magic. Two kids with unlimited free time, endless resources, and apparently zero supervision. But hidden inside the humour and the chaos is something strangely fascinating. These inventions are built with just enough detail, just enough believability to make us wonder, could they actually work? That's the central question we're tackling today. Because while you and I could never build a skyscraper before dinner, or launch a space rocket between lunch and snack time, real-world engineering has produced some shocking feats of speed, scale, and creativity. And when you compare those with Phineas and Ferb's projects, the line between fantasy and possibility isn't always as clear as you might think. Think about it. Could you actually build a roller coaster through your own house in a single day? How much power would it take to run a backyard ice rink in the middle of summer? And what would it really cost to pull off just one of their massive projects? That's where we begin. The allure of Phineas and Ferb's inventions isn't just in their size or spectacle, it's in that little whisper of possibility. The idea that maybe, just maybe, the only thing separating us from their world is imagination and a bottomless budget. Physics versus Phineas. Here's the thing. Phineas and Ferb don't just bend the laws of physics. Sometimes they throw them right out the window. And yet, that's exactly what makes their inventions so fascinating. Let's break it down. Gravity-defying feats. Take the backyard roller coaster from episode 1. At first glance, it looks impossible. A mile-high track looping through the city, defying every safety regulation known to mankind. But let's pause. Could it actually work? In theory, yes. Roller coasters rely on one thing above all else: gravity. You get a huge initial drop, and that momentum carries you through the rest of the ride. Real coasters, like King Dakar or Steel Dragon, already push these limits. Phineas and Ferb just take that logic and crank it up to 11. Of course, their version has no visible supports, no structural reinforcements, and somehow it's built in a single afternoon. So, reality check? Possible in principle, impossible in practice. Powering the impossible. Now let's talk energy. A giant backyard ice rink in the middle of summer? The cooling power alone would rival what it takes to keep an entire hockey arena frozen. We're talking massive generators, industrial refrigerants, and enough electricity to black out a small city. But here's where it gets sneaky. In the show, Phineas and Ferb often casually mention things like solar panels or self-sustaining reactors. Which makes you wonder, were the writers hinting at futuristic green technology way ahead of its time? Because in today's world, renewable energy is scaling up fast. Maybe not cartoon fast, but fast enough to blur that line between their impossible and our almost possible. Materials science gone wild. And finally, materials. From shrink rays to teleporters, their inventions require metals that never corrode, plastics that never break, and computers that never crash. In real life, engineers are constantly battling material limits. Steel bends, concrete cracks, circuits fry. But science is catching up. Graphene, carbon nanotubes, smart alloys, these are the kinds of breakthroughs that, if perfected, could bring us a little closer to building the impossible. Maybe not a skyscraper in a day close, but bridge that never rusts close. And that's still mind-blowing. So while Phineas and Ferb's builds often laugh in the face of physics, they also inspire a real question. Are we actually that far away, or are their cartoons just showing us what humanity might achieve in the not-so-distant future? The budget breakdown? Alright, so let's talk money. Phineas and Ferb aren't just inventors, they're basically billionaires without even realising it. Their backyard projects, if we added up the costs, they'd make Elon Musk look like he's saving for his first lemonade stand. The roller coaster of debt. Take their giant roller coaster. Just building a normal coaster in the real world costs anywhere from $20 million to $60 million. Now scale that up to the size of an entire city with track that shoots into space. You're looking at a bill so astronomical, it might outpace NASA's annual budget. We're talking hundreds of billions for one summer afternoon. Backyard ice rink power bill. Next up, the ice rink. Cooling systems for professional hockey arenas cost around $10,000 per day to run. Multiply that by the ridiculous size of Phineas and Ferb's backyard rink, and you're already staring at 6 figures a week. Basically, Mum and Dad would open their next energy bill and just faint on the spot. The transportation empire. And don't even get me started on their transportation projects. Time machines, teleporters, jetpacks. In real life, developing even prototype versions of these technologies costs millions to billions in research and development. These two kids, they casually toss them together in the time it takes most people to finish a sandwich. So where's the money coming from? Here's the kicker. Phineas and Ferb never seem to worry about money, materials, or manpower. That's the big clue that the show isn't just about science. It's about imagination without limits. If you stripped away the budget concerns, the bureaucracy, the supply chain shortages, you'd be left with pure creativity. And that's exactly what the show wants kids, and honestly, adults too, to hold on to. So in real-world terms, their backyard adventures would cost trillions of dollars. But in the universe of Phineas and Ferb, imagination is the real currency. Philosophy in the backyard. At first glance, Phineas and Ferb looks like just another wacky kids cartoon. Big inventions, crazy adventures, and running gags. But if you look closer, there's something almost philosophical about it. The spirit of boundless creativity. Phineas and Ferb never wake up and say, "We can't do this, it's too big." They never worry about failure, budgets, or whether people will laugh at them. Every day, they wake up and simply ask, "What are we going to do today?" And then they actually do it. That mindset is quietly revolutionary. In a world where adults are constantly bogged down by rules, bills, and self-doubt, the show reminds us what it feels like to imagine without limits. It whispers a message to both kids and adults. Don't let the weight of the world crush your curiosity. The role of Candace. Even Candace, constantly trying to bust them, plays into this philosophy. She represents the rules, the structure, the part of life that tries to shut down wonder. Yet no matter what, Phineas and Ferb keep creating. They don't rebel in anger, they just keep building joy. And ironically, it's Candace's failure to expose them that protects the spirit of imagination. Perry and Doofenshmirtz, a parallel story. And then there's Perry and Doofenshmirtz. At first, their subplot seems completely separate, but look deeper. Doof is actually a failed inventor, someone who never found joy in creation, only bitterness. Perry isn't just fighting him, he's balancing the show. On one side, you have creativity fueled by wonder. On the other, creativity twisted by resentment. Together, they make a quiet statement. It's not what you build, it's why you build it. Why it resonates today. That's why Phineas and Ferb still hits so hard, even years after it aired. It isn't just a comedy, it's a celebration of childlike imagination, persistence, and optimism. In a way, it tells us, yes, the world is messy, rules exist, and sometimes people will doubt you. But that doesn't mean you should stop building, dreaming, or creating. And maybe that's the most quietly prophetic part of the whole show. Why we love Phineas and Ferb. Long after the last episode aired, something remarkable happened. The world never let go of Phineas and Ferb. Even now, years later, the fandom is alive in every corner of the internet. TikTok clips of Candace's dramatic meltdowns go viral. Memes of Perry the Platypus are everywhere. Songs like Squirrels in My Pants resurface on playlists and edits, as if they were released yesterday. It's as though this show refuses to be forgotten, because it can't be. But Phineas and Ferb wasn't just a show that survived in memory, it quietly changed the way animation was made. Before, children's cartoons often played it safe. Simple jokes, simple plots, but this series dared to be clever, self-aware, even satirical, and it proved that kids could understand and love more than people gave them credit for. Shows that came after, Amphibia, The Owl House, even the emotional depth of Bluey, all stand on the shoulders of what Phineas and Ferb built. And then came the revivals. Candace Against the Universe, the upcoming return of the series itself. These weren't just corporate nostalgia plays. Disney doesn't bring back everything. They brought this back because they know it still matters. Because at its core, it's not just about gadgets, songs, or even summer. It's about imagination. It's about friendship. It's about family. It's about the idea that no day is too ordinary to be turned into something extraordinary. That's why Phineas and Ferb isn't locked in the past. It lives in every kid building a cardboard fort, every teenager daydreaming in math class, every adult remembering what it felt like to believe you could make anything possible. Phineas and Ferb wasn't just a cartoon, it was a philosophy, a blueprint for joy, a legacy that keeps inventing itself over and over again.